What a great morning speaking with Ian Moyse. You know, he is an amazing guy. Now, he's in the United Kingdom, and it was great to hear his take on what's going on in the future of technology, Zoom calls, everything that has to do with you as a brand. You're going to want to listen to this guy. He knows his stuff. It was a pleasure to talk to him. Check out the next 24 hours. Welcome to the next 24 hours, where I'm going to give you real information you can really use to transform your life and work one day at a time. I'll be your host, Curtis Zimmerman. Very excited to be inviting onto the program today Ian Moyse. Now, Ian is the Europe, Middle East, and African Sales Director for Natterbox, a company based in the UK that specializes in cloud-based telecommunications. He was recognized as UK Sales Director of the Year, ranked in the top most influential in sales lead management, and is a leading voice on personal branding, cloud and software sales, and leadership. He's joining me from Wiltshire, Berkshire, United Kingdom.
Curtis, pleasure to be here, and sat at home as all of us, I guess, are at this stage in the world. So, interesting times.
Absolutely, and so excited to get some of your insights on these times, and also how companies, individuals, personal brands, because we're all a brand, can work on some of those things during this time. So as we're able to come back out into the world, who are we going to be? What are we going to represent? And what does that really look like? So what I'd love to do is just start with a little bit of kind of your background and why you're so passionate about what it is you do.
Sure, thanks. I'll keep it short because everyone can always talk about themselves, right? But yeah, my background in simple terms is been in the IT technology sector for tens of years now. Originally started off nice and technical in the old world with old tech, and now have the pleasure of working in the exciting world of cloud computing, the stuff that powers all the wondrous stuff that we see going on today with Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, etc. So I work in an exciting area. I run the European team at Natterbox, which is a cloud telephony provider in Salesforce, which right now is a very interesting time for us. Of course, everyone's trying to figure out how to work remotely, and that includes phones and systems. And the personal brand side, I got through doing what I do and getting involved in doing speaking at events and trying to figure out how to stay relevant and engage with customers in a changing world. I discovered the world of social media, social selling, LinkedIn, and other platforms many years ago, and accidentally fell into realizing that your digital footprint and how you look digitally has an impact that has changed the world of engagement, and particular sales and recruitment and getting jobs, etc. People, the first handshake people get with you is often a digital one, and I think people underestimate that. But I think what we're going through now with COVID has heightened everyone's understanding of digital engagement, because we can't go near people, right? So online technologies have boomed. How you look online, everything to do with your electronic persona today is more important than it has ever been before.
Wow, I couldn't agree with you more. And could you share for some people that maybe haven't worried so much about that in the past, some pitfalls or some things that they should, avoid, and maybe a few things that you think are a really good idea for them to be thinking about as they're putting up content or they're sharing content or photos and things like that? I'd love to get your view on that, since you've been in it for so long.
Yeah, and I'm not doing it from a viewpoint of I haven't made mistakes. So I have not gone out and read a book and professed to be an expert in this. I see too many who profess to be social media, social selling person, or experts in all this stuff. And I look at what is their content. Have you lived it, or have you read it and invented some training material to teach it? So I've lived it. I've learnt this the hard way, and there's books out now that I read and go, I wish it had been there at the time because I could have taken the shortcut. And I guess that's what you're asking for, is some hacks and shortcuts, I guess. But think about how you appear online. Anything you put online, unless you have protected it to only be available and viewable by selected people, by default, anyone can find and see. And too often I see things that people post, and I'll give you a context, a reference point that people can relate to, and that individual, if they hear this, will know it was them. So someone that used to work for me recently reached out just before the COVID thing. Unfortunately, look at things had happened. They were looking for a job, and I pointed them, helped them a little bit, pointed them in the right direction, things like this. But I happened to notice, because we're socially connected on Facebook, that something they posted with a comment during COVID was not derogatory or inflammatory to anyone. But if I was looking for a job, would I want a potential employer to see me saying that? And I reached to him and just said, "You are aware, I'm just checking, but it doesn't look to me like that's only available to friends." And he took it down with, "Actually, I hadn't thought about that." He hadn't realised that anything he'd posted there wasn't just open to his connections. He hadn't changed the default settings, etc. So think about what you post, and think about the fact that anything you post is out there for a long time, because Google and these search engines cache and index them. So have a look. An easy one is to search yourself online, but from someone else's PC, so there's no bias or anything, or none of your logins are there. See what you find. That's a good simple one, because that's what someone else would see you as. I would also look at what social platforms you're on, and which ones you use for that you expect to be seen in a professional manner, and which ones are personal. And it's nothing wrong with having Instagram and Facebook for personal, totally. But then consider, what do I post on them? And you don't have to lock them down, but if what you post you might only want friends to see, then lock them down, right? It's easy. It's just a few settings, and then all your friends can see everything you want them to see. So with the people you want to see it, get to see it, and no one else does. There's no accidents can happen. So it's just having some thought pattern. Too often, I think people just post everything willy-nilly without consideration of, actually, I've just published this to the world. I've told the world if they want to look, they can. So that would be one. And then look at your social profile pictures, the ones you do leave open. How do you appear? And again, too often I see basic fundamental mistakes and horror stories. And people think they're not, there's nothing, there's varying degrees of this. Don't post your LinkedIn profile picture of you with a beer in hand unless you're a wine merchant, or so. Use a picture that's appropriate. There's nothing wrong being a picture there of you holding playing cards up and a magic trick if you're a magician. If you're not, and you're an architect, your audience that's coming to you to that site is looking for an architect. You're not portraying what they expect to find with the relevant first impression for the audience you want to have. And it's simple stuff, but people make fundamental, simple mistakes.
So I have a question for you, because I know that that's true for us individually, and also I know that it's true for large brands, and I've seen them make those same kinds of mistakes as well. Different departments sending out different messaging, different logos, different campaigns all at the same time. And for the customer, that can be very confusing on what action I am to take based on what this brand is sending me. So if I am a big brand, how do you get them to kind of all sing the same song and push through messaging as well? Do you have any advice to all of the corporate folks that listen to this podcast on some ways that they can streamline that? And is there a way that cloud technology helps us to do that?
Well, I think a number of things there. I'm not going to talk heavily about corporate branding that's not my expertise, and I'm not going to pretend there, but it's no different. Branding is about how do you want to be viewed? What is it you want the viewer to perceive you as? What do you want to be known for? Right. So if you see a corporate brand that's been successful, you see the logo, you immediately have a feeling. You immediately know what it's about. If you see the golden arches, you know what that product is, right? Even from a child now, the brand is so strong and it's consistent. They don't use different, to your point, different logos or different things and themes. There's always something tying it back together. So for individuals, one thing you can do in the corporate brand is think about the individual brand across your employees, for example. And too often I see people, what happens is the brand control positions. We've created a piece of content. We'd like you all to push it out. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but social advocacy isn't about just getting your employees just to reshare something, because they've probably not got the audience you want anyway. What you really want to look at is how do you utilize those individuals to represent your brand and create their own content and contribute to your content, which makes it more authentic and personable. We live in a world today where, even if you deal with a large brand, if you're going to go and sell to them, you look up the individuals. The brand's one thing, but you say, oh yeah, I deal with Bob, I deal with Sue, I deal with Dave. It's still, even in this electronic world, a people-to-people business. It's just the medium that brings us together is often an electronic one. So I often talk to people and say, the goal of using social media in a business-to-business role is still to bring people together. And when you get those people together, social media has done its job, right? So if I share a piece of content that someone interacts with, and I then follow them or see their content, and we interact a little bit, and then we message you, I saw you do that. Well, have you seen this? You start to build a little rapport, but you've never met, through to the point where you might say, actually, and I've had this happen dozens of times. Actually, I'm coming to London for a conference. You're not around to grab a coffee. Oh yeah. So I've met lots of big book authors in sales and leadership, because we've engaged on social, and it's slowly we bump into each other more, and I've shared something and they've commented on mine, and it feels like you know each other. There's there's a little bit of rapport that turns into a real world engagement that then turns into something you know each other a bit better, and you've met, and you still continue on the social, but you don't feel you have to just like and whatever, right? You just send a message now, and you talk, because it's two humans that you've built a connection. Social is about making connections still with individuals or brands, not just about pushing content out. And the important thing, I think, in today's world, it's insightful, engaging, valuable content. That's what people are looking for, right? And so building a brand isn't just having a logo. It's about, what do people get from you? What value do they get? What perception are you giving them by what content and you share against your brand?
Wow, that is so strong. And I know one of the big mistakes I see often on social media and LinkedIn is that initial handshake, hey, let's connect. And then the very next thing I hear is, here's my service. I want you to, hey, let me sell you this. Oh, can you buy this from me? Let me take you here and look at all the things that I have to offer. So they're going straight to the sale rather than building that relationship. And I think that what you're saying is so important for everybody here, and that is, use social media as a way to have conversations with people you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to, not to just meet them and then sell them something real quickly. And if you build those relationships and you have something that's of value, you'll find those people end up buying things, and you may purchase things from them as well. But I think a lot of people miss that middle place. And
absolutely.
You said it.
And I'm glad I'm not the only one that gets those messages, right? Starting to take it personal. Yeah, the analogy I give for that is, if you went to an event, forget what's the world that we're living in at the moment, but you went along to some conference or event, and you're at you're grabbing your coffee at the table when everyone's going through registration, and you stand next to someone, you invoke a conversation, right? You might say, "Oh, God, that traffic was nice. How did you get here this morning? That was a bit of a night. How far did you come?" It's chit chat, right? But you do that. And you don't start with, Hi, my name's Ian. Hi, my name's Bob. Right, Bob. This is what we do, and I'd like to sell you this. And let me tell you that you don't do it in the real world. What you do is you have a bit of a conversation. You might go, who are you with, Bob? Oh, okay. What are you looking to? Which sessions are you going to today? Oh, okay. And then you might bump into them during that. Oh, what did you think of that one? Were you in the third one? Yeah, wasn't he great? And during the day, and I've had this happen so many times where at some point you go, what's that company you do? What do you do? Because it feels a natural progression to ask a little bit more. And well, what do you do? And I've had that, and I always cite this as that's the way to do it, because one of the biggest customer engagements I got, which ended up being a global customer of mine, I sat next to the CIO at an event, and we were just chit-chatting like that, and just said, what do you do? Oh, really? Oh, what do you do? And eventually he said, well, we've got a project, something to do with that. We should have a chat. Give me a call. But it developed during the day of chit-chat to a point of then going and having a coffee meeting with them, then turning into something, whatever, right? Now, on social, why do people think they can shortcut all of that? They go, well, because it's Is it because it's electronic and it's faceless, so the person's not going to look at me weirdly and make me feel uncomfortable, so I can get away with everything? But it doesn't work. That's what I like to ask people is, how's that worked for you? Oh, well, it's great. I had loads of activity. I sent 400 emails out this week. Great. And that's what you're targeted on, is it? Or is it the results you're interested in? Activity isn't productivity.
Hello, everybody. My name is Noah Zimmerman, and I'm the narrator of the audiobook version of Life at Performance Level. I'm sorry to interrupt this episode, but I wanted to let you know that right now at curtiszimmerman.com, the audiobook version of Life at Performance Level is being offered absolutely free. All you have to do is go to curtiszimmerman.com, click VIP Login at the top right of the screen, and you'll have access to both the audiobook and lots of other resources that'll help you live the dream. Thank you for your attention, and let's get back to the show.
We had a conversation last week, and you shared something that was so important that I had not heard anyone else say, and that is this time that is so unique. And globally, for the next 5 years or more, you said, Curtis, people are going to pose a question.
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is going to be very telling. And I'd love for you to just tell us, because I don't want to give it away. Tell me what you had shared with me, because when we think about personal branding and you think about yourself as a brand, a lot of people are hitting pause right now. And what I got from you is maybe that's not the best thing to do.
No, I think big mistake. And I've heard this from too many people. They've been furloughed or, their business is not busy, etc. And I get that. But this is a period where you've got time on your hands. And yes, you might want to spend some time with the family and you've got to break your day up and do some stuff because it is a challenging time, right? But I think people need to expect to hear the following question. Now, this is whether you're coming out of this without a job, unfortunately, and need to go to interviews in a competitive market, or you are down the line. Isn't it obvious that people are going to ask you the question, and what did you do during the COVID period? And do you really want to be saying, oh, well, I laid around mostly and watched TV and Netflix. It was great. I had 3 months off and I watched Netflix. Didn't really achieve anything. Because what does that say about your character? And it's an obvious question people are going to ask. It's such a convenient question. How can you not think that's going to get asked of you? And wouldn't it be great to have an answer where, well, what I did is, as I realized I couldn't do my job at work because they'd done this or whatever. So I decided to learn a new skill, or I found. And the great thing right now is so many providers online have made content available or access for free. So many people have done generous brand reputation things to enable you to do things that your barrier before might have been, well, I haven't got time and it's going to cost me some of my money, so I won't get round to it right now. Well, if you look now, there's a lot of free stuff out there. So for my business, to give a particular context, we work in the Salesforce ecosystem, and Salesforce has these things called Trailheads, which is free online training. And there's something like 700 plus little courses, depending on what you're interested in, what the skill is, that you can take for free. Well, why wouldn't you? So I've got my whole team doing Trailheads and not dropping everything, right? We're still up and running and working because we're lucky enough to be in a business where our technology enables people to be up and running on their phone systems, live and working, and carry on as normal. But I've said to them, take an hour a day, each of you. I want you to take an hour a day and do this, because you'll come out of it with, think about this. If we're off for 3 months, think about how many you're going to have. We're going to be up there with a lot of certifications each, which gives you value, you've learned something. And it also, if nothing else, breaks your day up and gives you a bit of construct for the day, rather than it's just, great, I've got something I achieved. And one of my guys literally, weirdly, Kurt, just tell you this, literally 10 minutes ago before we came on the line, pinged me an email going, got done 2 today. Feel like I've got something done. It's his achievement for the day, because it is hard to get hold of customers right now and do other stuff. So if nothing else, you come out of the day with a positive impact. You've learned something. And personal branding right now, go and clean your social profiles up. It doesn't take 4 weeks. Spend 20 minutes a day having a dip around, look at what other people have done, have a look at my profile. I'm not saying it's perfect, and beg, borrow, steal, plagiarize, and improve it. Go and ask people for recommendations on LinkedIn. Anyone that you've worked with that said you did a fantastic job, that you think, or that speech you did was great, or that was great. Did you ask them for a recommendation? Why not reach out to them now and say, weird thing, I just listened to a podcast, there's your excuse, and it was suggested on there, and I thought that's a good idea. So because I listened to that, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I remember you saying that about me. How are you, by the way? But would you mind would you mind just doing something on my LinkedIn? Because one of the things they suggested was to target myself to get 10 more LinkedIn recommendations during this period, and you're one that I thought of. Would you do that for me?
I love you followed up on that the other day with, and then the next obvious thing you might want to do is go and do the same for them.
Yeah.
I thought that's so brilliant. And that's, for me, leadership. So often we think of mentorship and leadership as take. But I find that when somebody does react and say, oh, sure, I'd be glad to do that, and then they follow through, the next obvious thing would be to go to their LinkedIn and say what they're amazing in. And that's a piece I see a lot of people miss.
Go and write a piece of content. If you've always thought of writing a blog and you've got something you're expert in or not, go and write it, post it on your LinkedIn profile. You don't need to create a WordPress site or anything. You can post it as an article on LinkedIn, create your first post on your profile. I'll show you created some content. Come out of COVID with your head held high with, I did this, I achieved this. And the goal for me is every day to come out of every day with you've created a new piece of content, you've improved a profile, you've learned something, you've passed another level of a course. Every day you've progressed, so in little steps, but by the end of it, you go, oh my God, look at all what I achieved in that period. It wasn't dead, wasted time. Yes, I had time with the family. Yes, I watched a bit of Netflix. Yes, I did, but it was balanced. So when someone asks you down the line, what did you do during COVID? You say, well, it was struggle, right? And this and this, and this. But, and it's going to flow off the tongue because you lived it. But I tried to do this every day, and I listened to one podcast every day to learn something, and I did this, and I wrote this, and I created that. And some of it will be physically dated and time stamped on your social, right? You better see it and go. And if you look on my social, you'll see I wrote 3 blogs during that period. I'd never written any before, but I wanted to learn and understand I wanted to put some words down and develop myself and feel I was doing something. I didn't sit idle. People are going to be proud of that and hold you accountable for well done, as opposed to someone that sits there and says, I just waited till it was over and etc. Which one do you want to be?
Yes, I think that's so well said. And also, I don't want people to beat themselves up, because we can get on social media and we can see what other people are doing, and oh, they're baking cakes every day and they're homeschooling their kids. And it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like such a loser because I'm not doing everything for all people.
Everyone's living the perfect world, right?
Right. And I think that it's also really important that you limit the amount of time you get drawn into those things, because then you'll say, well, what do I have to say? What do I have to do? How can I give in that way? So when I really started diving deep into becoming a speaker after being a performer, one of the things I was really careful not to do was look at Anthony Robbins and think, oh, well, look at him. There's no way I can be. No, no, no. He didn't start at where he is now. He started at the very beginning. And that's I think a big miss now with social media. A lot of people look at the end result and that defeats them rather than looking at, the storyline it took to get where those people are today, and just enjoy the process. Does that resonate with you?
It does, and I'll give you a perfect reference point for that. Is a weird side, and I like magic. Right, I got into magic a number of years ago, and can do some tricks and get away with doing enough that it looks impressive at dinners and stuff. But you're right. I look online and go, oh my God, some of the magicians out there. But does it stop me doing it? No, I've got a pile of tricks here I've bought online. And one of my little goals, once I get through some work stuff, is can I learn one new trick a day? Can I practice and take some time to learn it, right? So can I come out of this knowing 20 or 30 new tricks where, wow, actually, you could actually go and do a wedding event or something like that if you chose to, because you've got enough in your kit bag. And all of that, for me, that's something I'm passionate about, but it's possible. The only thing that ever barriers me is time. The intention's there. I'd love to do it, but you never get there, right? Well, one thing you've got on your hands right now is time. So anything you've put off, whether it's painting an oil painting or trying to have a go, it isn't all about social media. But come out of this having achieved something, and I try and do something each day. It doesn't have to be something huge. Can you break up a big job into lots of small ones, maybe? But
wow.
come out of each day with something. And I did something today, even if it's 20 minutes. I achieved something today. I got a little bit better at something. And the online training one is a great one, because there's so much online training materials available at low or free cost that you can go and learn a new skill.
Well, I didn't know this about you, and I just have to tell you that about a week and a half ago, I uploaded about 200 how-to videos, because I had shot those about 10 years ago for my kids in case they ever wanted to learn how to juggle 5 balls or do magic tricks. I shot all these videos and put them on YouTube. They got 3 million hits. And to your point, then when the corporate folks typed in Curtis Zimmerman for a speaker, all of these crazy videos came up. So I had to pull them and take them all off because I was sending out the wrong messaging. Well, because so many people had time, I went ahead and I loaded those all back up. So when we're done here, I just recommend checking those out, because there's a ton of magic tricks and each one teaches you exactly how to do the trick. So that's hilarious that you said that. And I would just say, as we close out here, for you, if you're talking to one of your friends and they're talking about this time period and what the world's going to look like and how the cloud and all the technology that we use every day, how that's going to look moving forward and what we need to know, do you have any insight in just, well, here are a few things most people don't know, but here's where I see the direction of us moving forward after we're able to go back into the world?
Sure. So I think what this has opened a lot of eyes up to, and it's affected everyone, is everyone will relate to this. How many of us have had emails from companies saying, unfortunately, you can't contact us at this time, our contact centre's down, etc., 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 because businesses have gone totally offline. Right. And I think what you're going to see change, because we've got to assume, based on what we hear the scientists saying, this may happen again. Right. Unfortunately, it's never happened before. It doesn't mean, we're not going to see another piece of this. The technology to enable us to all stay online and continue is available today. and it's affordable. What hasn't happened is businesses, didn't know the gaps they had. They didn't recognize in some instances what wouldn't work because they'd never really had to instigate a full work from home policy for any prolonged period, more than if snow had hit or something, but more than anything that really had an impact. And B, many of them had not employed or used the technology because I didn't think they'd ever need it because we're tied to an office. So I think what we're going to see is a rapid changing of attitude into it's actually possible to work from home quite effectively using the technology available today. Video calling, we're all doing this stuff now and realizing actually it's pretty easy, but there are some glitches of things people haven't thought about, such as where do you work from home? Have you got a place to sit? Oh, I hadn't thought about that because I'd never had to do it before. Yeah, so it's not just technology, it's also the human element of workspace, the environment around them. And this is the hardest it's ever going to be, right? Working from home, because you've got kids at home, you've got distractions, you've probably got lots of deliveries going on because you can't, a lot of people are ordering online because they can't get to the shop, so it's easier to get it delivered. So it's a slightly intensified work from home environment. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of change of technologies that businesses are using and facilitation and more acceptance that working from home can work. And we will see some companies, I think, getting rid of their physical offices and saying, actually, we could hire a virtual office, meet once a month and work from home and save a fortune. There's going to be a different mindset coming out of this. It's not a technology barrier. I think it's more been the human element barrier and the perception barrier. How do I know my workers are working at home? How do I keep them efficient? So I think we're going to go into a new world with different eyes and we will see some innovation and we'll see some tuning of packages and options and things that are out there to facilitate a far wider, affordable working from home environment.
Do you see, and because obviously I'm in the States and you're in the United Kingdom, do you see a difference in the effects for us here in the US to what's going on there? Or do you really feel like, they talk about the flattening of the curve. It seems like a lot of things have been flattened in communication, and it's easy for me to talk to you even though you're not in the States because we have this kind of common thing that we've all gone through now. What are you hearing from what you hear about going on here compared to what's going on there, if you hear any difference?
So I'll give you a perceptive trade because I lived in the States for 3 or 4 months a number of years ago, setting up a division of a technology vendor I worked at. And the thing that struck me at that time is the US was far more used to doing web calls, webinars, and utilizing remote technology between individuals than the UK, because countries in Europe, it's a lot easier to go. The distances are far reduced, right? Whereas in the US, in the UK, you can drive each end of the country. You couldn't even fly that in some of the times in the US. So I think European countries are catching up. I think the US was ahead of, based on the breadth of territory, was probably more receptive, certainly to webinars and this form of media than we were over here. What I've seen an acceleration of is consumers and users over here adopting online conferencing technology into there. Whereas normally we go, oh, I'll come and meet you because you're only an hour away. I'll drive to you. Where in the US the equivalent might be a 4 or 5 hour drive. So I think we are probably catching up, and I would suspect that some of the online product providers of conferencing, etc., would see their penetration in the European markets had been less than in the US, would now accelerate as a percentage-wise. I think that's the difference. It is the mindset change, because it's just been easier over here to most people to be closer. And I'd witnessed in the US much more use of this type of technology in the past before this. I'm sure it's accelerated over there as well, but I think the percentage acceptance over here has grown. But I think around the rest of it, I think we're all in the same boat, right? Each state in the US or each area is taking things differently. we've got different political opinions going on. We won't get into the Trump and Boris discussion of how they're handling things and personalities, but I think we're all facing the same challenges, right? It's an unusual world. We've all got the same challenges with isolation, with food supply, with kids at home, distractions, etc., etc. But the beautiful thing is, isn't it interesting that technology was ready for us, and the stuff that it's made people aware, and the internet hasn't died, right? Despite everyone's rumoring, we haven't had a single blip on this call across the transatlantic, despite there must be more people online for longer and doing weird and wonderful things with gaming and videos and stuff than would be the norm. I've seen all the stats saying all the internet providers are saying the peak periods are now the norm.
Wow.
But the great thing is we haven't had an effect. I don't know if you've seen it, but there hasn't been any stories about the internet failing or outages. The technology is bearing up to the volume.
Wow, that is a really good point. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your insights, giving us a global view. And I need to know, if the people listening want to find out more about you, more about what you do, where would they go and find out more about you?
So here's a final personal branding tip then. It makes it easy. If you go to ianmoyse.co.uk or ianmoyse.cloud, they will take you directly to my LinkedIn and Twitter accounts. So you can, simple thing there, you buy your own URL. It's cheap, it's easy, and then just reroute them to where you want to go. So I've actually done that on all my social accounts. I can point you directly to any social account I've got from memory without having to say, go to this platform and now search for me. I've made the customer experience to find me simpler and also more professional, hopefully.
Love it. One more great tip. Thank you so much for joining us on the next 24 hours. Stay safe and healthy. Godspeed. Appreciate you so much. Well, it's time for my favorite part of this program. On the next 24 hours, we always end with the 24-hour challenge. What is it we're going to do? Ian gave us so much great information, and information's great, but how are you going to use that? What are you going to do in the next 24 hours to actually actualize some of the great things he shared? So here is your 24-hour challenge. I want you to Google your own name. I want you to go on Facebook. I want you to go on LinkedIn. I want you to go on any social media platforms that you have. And I just want you to look at what other people see when they look you up. Is it time for you to change that picture? Is it time for you to put some new content out? Is it time for you to change your personal branding just a little bit? Give it 30 minutes, sometimes in the next 24 hours, and you might be amazed what you see and what you can put out into the world of social media to make your brand look better. Have an amazing day, and of course, keep living the dream. Hey everybody, I wanted to thank you so much for listening, and I have a workbook that is all about script writing. It's how to write a new script. It's normally $15 on my website. I want to offer it to you today for free. Just go to curtiszimmerman.com/new script, and you'll be able to download that as a free gift. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you keep listening to the next 24 hours.